obstacles in my dancing definitely came from starting at an older age. So someone asked, what does a typical day of performing look like? I think that my experiences in A Taste of Ireland as well definitely helped with my competitive dancing career. So someone has asked what the audition process was like. My best advice to others who started their passion later in life is, hi, my name's Áine Fitzpatrick, and in this week's episode I'm going to share with you my experiences living in Ireland and starting dance at the age of 15. In my journey to the stage, I share some of the obstacles that I encountered and how I overcame them. From Ireland to Australia and onto the stage, I hope you enjoy my journey. I'm 22 years old and I've just graduated from a degree in psychology, so I'm looking to do some further study in that field, particularly in developmental psychology and working with children. I was born in the US to Irish parents, so we moved back to Ireland after a few years, and then when I was 6 years old in 2004 we moved to Australia. I originally started dancing in Ireland when I was 5. I did around 6 months to a year of dancing, just learning the basics there. It was like just something that you did living in Ireland. And then I moved to Australia and I originally kept going with the dancing. I'd had a couple of lessons maybe, and then I decided that I wanted to try some more Australian hobbies and some different sports that weren't available to me when I lived in Ireland, so I stopped Irish dancing in that same year in 2004 and had a really long break from dancing. It must have been around 2012. I went to an Irish primary school and I had graduated from that primary school, but they were holding a party or a ceilidh of sorts, and they wanted some Irish dancers to come and perform. And they knew that I had done it as a child, so they asked me and a friend to put together a little dance that we could do at the party. So I did that. I went back to YouTube videos and learned a couple of things that I could do just to put on a bit of a show. And I found that I really enjoyed it, and I kind of missed having those skills under my belt. So I decided that I should come back and do some classes. So I was 15 when I started dancing again. I started taking some more classes. I was dancing with the 7-year-olds, learning the basics all over again. And then I moved to Canberra and I started at McGrath School with my teacher Leanne McGrath, and she pushed me so hard. I came into her school and I didn't even own a pair of hard shoes. I really did not know what I was doing. And she saw something in me and pushed me to be better, which was like a really amazing experience, and it's what really got me into my dance career. So my dance career really came into full swing around 2014. I started doing more classes. I was competing at the state championships and at local competitions, and I went to my first national championships in Canberra in 2014. Obviously I was starting a lot later than most people. I didn't really know anyone in my section. I didn't know anyone else who had started so late. So it was definitely a challenge to try and get up to speed, and I didn't have the experience that other people had. So I hadn't done all these kind of competitions before. I didn't really know that much about the dance world. But what I did have was a lot of passion for what I was doing. And I think that came from an internal drive, but also from the people around me. So the people in my school were passionate, my teacher was passionate, and they all wanted to see me do well and were willing to push me to be the best that I could be. In 2016, I went to my first international competition in the US, and then I continued to do international competitions from there. So I've competed in the US a few times, in Ireland as well, at the World Championships and the All Ireland Championships. And I started getting some real experience under my belt. So I was going to these international competitions and placing there. I was doing the national championships and the AIO Championships, and starting to sort of climb up the ranks. The biggest obstacles in my dancing definitely came from starting at an older age. So not having that experience of competitions that other people had. When you get up on stage, it's a completely different experience from dancing in the studio. So getting that stage experience is something that's really important, and to overcome that, I just did as many competitions as I could. So I lived in Canberra and I was constantly driving up to Sydney to compete there. I was coming down to Melbourne. I was doing all of the major competitions, and I was traveling overseas just to really get that experience. And because I had such a limited time to get that experience, it didn't span decades like it would for some people. I was really jamming it in and trying to just do everything that I could in the time that I had. The other thing that was holding me back was my technique. So I was really trying to get my muscles to work in a way that hadn't been ingrained since childhood, but it took a lot of stretching and a lot of drilling and just working really hard at it. That's the sort of only way to do it. But it's something I still struggle with today, and it's something that I'm still working on, trying to get my technique to the standard that it needs to be. I think what I did have, though, in the absence of technique and experience, was a whole lot of passion. So because I came into it so late, joining dancing again was a really conscious decision, and it meant that I knew exactly what I wanted out of it. I knew that I wanted to do well. I knew that I wanted this in my life, and I wanted to make friendships out of it. I wanted to gain experience. I wanted to travel, and I worked really hard to achieve those. And I think that that's something that did come with age. I think starting at an older age too meant that I didn't have the burnout that some people might experience in competing in a sport for so long. Like Irish dancing, like any other sport, is hard on your body. It's hard on you mentally as well, and it can be exhausting. So keeping that up for years is definitely a challenge. And because I came into it at an older age, I think I didn't have that kind of fatigue. I was, high in spirit, high in energy, and I still am now. And I'm keen to keep that up until the end of my career, whenever that might be. But I think that that's definitely something that came from being an older dancer. So moving from Ireland to Australia was definitely a bit of a culture shock, and something different. But I'm lucky that I was quite young at the time. I was 6 or 7, and I came into primary school in year 1. So I was the new kid, and I had the funny accent and all of that kind of thing, and had to quickly learn how to fit into an Australian kind of setting. But I'm lucky that I had good friends who gathered around me and taught me how to do that. So they really tried to help me become accustomed to Australian culture, and we lived in a really lovely community in Melbourne where we got a lot of help with that. I definitely do still miss Ireland at times though, even though the time that I lived there was pretty brief. My family are still there, so all of my extended family, my grandparents, my cousins and everything. But I'm lucky that with the dancing I get the opportunity to visit quite often. So before I started dancing, I had been back to Ireland maybe once or twice in the years that we've lived here, but since I've started traveling with dance, I've had lots of opportunities to go back to Ireland and see my family as well as compete, which is something really advantageous and lovely that's come from my dance career. So my journey with A Taste of Ireland started in 2018. I was really getting competitive at this stage. I was doing a lot of competitions, and I was dancing against a lot of people in my section, one of whom was one of Brent's dancers. So we were always very close in placings. We were very competitive with each other, which meant that Brent was watching me dance quite often. And then I got a message asking me to audition for the show at the 2018 National Championships in Cairns. So that week when we were in Cairns, I went and did an audition for the show. It was my first audition I'd ever done. But I thought I would do it for the experience and just see how it went. So as a consequence of that audition, I was offered a place in the home cast, which meant that when the show came around the Canberra or Sydney areas, I would jump in and be a part of the cast. So I did some rehearsals for that, and I learnt the show for the first time in 2018 and did one Christmas show in Canberra for all my friends and family, which was such a fun experience. It was great. So I then continued in the home cast throughout 2019. I did another 3 shows around Canberra and Wollongong, which really gave me the chance to get to know the show better, to grow as a performer, to put on more of a show when I was on the stage, and to get to know how the show worked in terms of touring and in terms of backstage kind of things, which I really had no experience with before I joined Taste of Ireland. I was then offered a place in the touring company for the 2019 Christmas tour, so we toured around Victoria, which was just the best experience ever. When you spend that long with people, you're there together pretty much 24 hours a day. You just get to know them so well. So the cast really had a great friendship, and it also improved my performance skills even more. Doing those shows back to back just gives you the chance to absolutely nail everything that you do, to really get more experience and to figure out what you're doing wrong as well. I think that my experiences in A Taste of Ireland as well definitely helped with my competitive dancing career. So I started with Taste of Ireland in 2018 and then kept working with them throughout 2019. And 2019 was definitely my best dance year to date. So in 2019, I won the AIO Championship, which was a massive win for me, and it's something that I'd really dreamed of. So that was such a great day. And I think that those performance skills that I'd learned in A Taste of Ireland and that confidence getting up on stage definitely impacted my performance throughout 2019. Placed 5th at the national championships, which was my best placing yet, and something that I had also dreamed of for a really long time. So I think that developing those skills and especially that confidence to get up on stage was really valuable. So overall, I do think that starting dancing at an older age was definitely a challenge. It's something that I still have to work at to try and improve those little things, those skills that I didn't get as a child, but I do think that it has made me the dancer that I am today. Coming into it later and having these experiences later in life means that I know what I'm doing, I know what I want out of it, and I really still have that passion to dance. I'm not burning out and I'm ready to keep going as long as I can. You do make sacrifices trying to balance study and work as an older dancer is definitely difficult. You have to sacrifice your social life sometimes your grades might suffer a little bit, but overall I think it's worth it for the life experiences that you get. So the experiences that I've got, not only competitively, which have provided me with such a massive fulfillment in my life, but also on the stage, have given me confidence and they've given me passion that drives me every day. So getting up on stage, especially with A Taste of Ireland, and being with other people and making friends and making the audience just enjoy what you do is something that gives me a real sense of fulfillment. So there's definitely some key moments which make those sacrifices worth it. Competitively winning the AIO Championship and placing 5th at Nationals were massive moments for me, but also getting up with A Taste of Ireland and dancing in front of all of my friends and family and making them just so proud is something that really makes those sacrifices worth it and just reminds you of the important things in life. And that's a moment that I wouldn't have got without the opportunities that A Taste of Ireland has given me. My best advice to others who started their passion later in life is just, it's really very basic. It's to keep that passion going. So there's a reason that you came into this at a later time. There's a reason that you're so driven by it. It takes a lot of dedication to start something later and to even have found something that gives you that kind of fulfillment and that satisfaction is something that's really special. So if you can keep that passion going and remind yourself why you love it and why you're doing this, I think that's the best advice I can give, is just to let that passion drive you. So I have some follower questions I'm going to answer now. A couple of people asked how I balance uni and work with dancing. I've been at uni for 4 years now. I've just graduated, but that meant that the majority of my competitive career and my show career happened while I was at uni and I was studying pretty intensely. But because I'm so passionate about dance, it's definitely something that I wanted to make time for. So I always tried to fit in as much dancing as I could around my uni schedule. The way that I did it is really just blocking out my day really well. So I knew that I had dance between certain hours, and that left me the rest of the day to get done whatever else I needed to do. So if I had work, I would put work in there as well. And then say I had 3 hours left in the day, I would make a list of what I needed to get done in those 3 hours. And I tried to be really realistic about things too. So I wouldn't try and jam pack my 3 hours if I knew that I wasn't feeling productive. So setting realistic goals with the time that you have is definitely something important that I would suggest for anyone trying to balance these kind of things. And then you just have to commit to it as well. So when you get to that 3 hours, it's really tempting to just go and lie in bed on your phone. But if you know that you have to get these things done to get to dance that evening, then you'll do it. I was also lucky that I chose jobs and sort of careers while I was studying and dancing that would be flexible. So I worked in childcare intentionally because you get holidays off, which meant that I could travel for dance in those times. In terms of making time for travel and dance, I think planning and communication were probably the biggest things. So I did have to take some time off uni sometimes to travel and some time off work, But giving your employers and your lecturers plenty of notice and telling them that this is something important that you have to do is definitely useful. Offering to catch up on missed work or do extra work before or after you go is great. But I'm also really lucky that the employers that I worked for were super flexible. So someone asked, what does a typical day of performing look like? So in general, you'd get up pretty early to go to the bus. So you have to be at the bus at a certain time to get to the venue on time. So we'll hop on the bus and go for a nice long drive usually. And then once you get to the venue, we'll help unpack all the costumes and everything else from the vans to get them inside. Once you've done your sort of hair and makeup and all of that's out of the way, we'll go up to the stage for a lineup, which is when you have to sort of block out the dancers and figure out the spacing of the stage, which gives you more of a sense of how you're going to use the stage that night. So that would take probably about an hour to get through lineup, and then once that's done, you'll come down and continue getting ready, making sure hair and makeup and the costumes are all sorted out. And we'll do a sound check as well usually, so putting shoes on and going up to the stage to make sure we can hear the music once we start dancing. And then getting closer to showtime, we would start getting warm, start running through the dances, make sure everything's nice and fresh. We'll do a nice fun warm-up to Untouched by the Veronicas before we get on stage, getting our costumes on and all sorted, and then we would do the show. After the show, we help pack everything up nice and quickly so we can get home and have a quick dinner before we get to bed. So someone has asked what the audition process was like. So pretty much I put in an online application to audition and then was given a time to come in and do a group audition. So there's a bunch of people in the room and you're asked to learn a step from the show, which is taught to you by some of the dancers who are in the show. So I've definitely struggled with that when I did it during my audition, but my best tip there would be to just try and just ask questions if you're not sure. So it's really about taking some initiative and showing that you're willing to learn, even if maybe you're not the fastest, you're willing to work at it and you will get it. I think we then did a solo step for the panel, and then we're asked some questions just about why we wanted to be in the show, what we were kind of doing, and our dancing experience. So that's my journey to the stage. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe below for more Taste of Island content.